welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another battle report. It's another face-to-face game between myself and Peter. Peter's bringing Paras, British Paras, so it'll be good to see them in a game. And I am bringing Germans. It's a tank killer, tank hunter list from German Bagration, if I can say that right. And it's one I've not used before, one I've kind of been tinkering with to try and get ready, and they're good enough to get on the table, and that's the Hetzers. So here's the German list. There are two formations. Start off with the new guys on the block. You've got company command of 2 Hetzers and 2 platoons of 4, and that's a nice neat 40 points between those 3 units. And then they've got a Panzer Grenadier platoon. These are from German Bagration. Not Panzer Grenadier platoon, a Panzer Grenadier formation. They've got 1 platoon of Panzer Grenadiers, and they have a Faust. You get that with the basic platoon now. And the company commander's also got a Faust, but no Shreks. And they've got half tracks, and then a platoon of 4 Panzer IVs, and then 4 8mm mortar half tracks. So that's 2 formations. And then in support, armour cars, kind of looking like they should be running around the desert, folks, but don't worry about that. I've taken the 2.7 centimetre anti-tank option on one of them. It means 3 less MG dice, but it gives you options. Maybe if I'm fighting Allied, I might be coming up against American half-tracks, you never know. And then, 3 Wisps with Observer. I kind of like never leave home without these nowadays in my German list. 9 points plus Observer to make it 10. It's a very good option. So there you go, folks. Hetzer Company, Panzer Grenadier Company. Let's see what they do.
Okay, I've brought a British para formation. It consists of HQ, which is 2 teams, and then there's 2 para platoons, each of 7 stands plus a Piat, and one of the platoons has got an extra Piat, so it's got 2 Piats. What else have I got? I've got HMG or MMGs, 6-pounders, light artillery, and a 6-team mortar platoon. So that's the formation. In support, I've got some Achilles and a tank platoon and an observer, and that's me.
The Hetzer is a small, compact tank destroyer. It's rated as careful, confident and trained, but it has a weaker counter-attack and assault rating due to it being an assault gun type weapon. Its last stand is a 3+, like other Germans, and it has a Stormtrooper rule. Now, its main gun is a 32-inch range, 7.5 centimetre, rate of fire 2, anti-tank 11, firepower 3, but it's forward firing and overworked. The MG incidentally only has a rate of fire of 2, and that is also forward firing. It also has a cross check of 5+, so it can be hard hitting. As you'll see on the side there, it's got good armour rating, but it can be a tricky vehicle to manoeuvre into firing position on the battlefield, so you have to think carefully about how you're going to use it. British Paras are elite airborne infantry. They are rated as careful, fearless, trained, but they hit on a 3+ in assault due to the deadly rule. They are armed with Bren and rifle teams with a rated fire of 2 or 1 pinned or when moving. They have at least 1 Piat in the platoon, but you can add another one if you want to spend the points, and they're an anti-tank weapon with a range of 8 inches, rate of fire 1, and that's a penalty of 1 on the move as well for slow firing. Anti-tank 10, firepower 5+. So they're basically hard-hitting infantry that are going to be difficult to hit in direct fire if they keep their heads down, but also they're going to be hard-hitting in assault. Here's today's battlefield, folks. You can see it's got a bit of a mixture of low and tall terrain. Buildings good for infantry to hide in. There's buildings in both quarters. Over here we've got sort of broken wooded area with a wee hill. There's another wee hill here incidentally, so okay for hiding behind. So there you go, folks. Let's now have a look at the lists. Today's mission, folks, escape. So it's a bit of a weird one, as you can see. Defenders over here, attackers in this band, but the defenders, reserves, are coming on from the back. I think the idea is these guys need to escape. Or do they guys need to escape? Anyway, it's a weird one because the attacker's got to watch his back whilst taking objectives, so this could be quite an interesting game. In terms of special rules, there's not a lot. There's ambush for the defender, immediate reserves for the defender. And there's ranged in markers, as you would expect. Nothing unusual about the reserves, ordinary reserves, and turn 6 is the key turn again. So I think this is really going to come down to the dynamics of the attacker pushing forward while still being able to protect our static assets against the reserves coming on, like artillery and such like, that's just sitting there shooting. And also, can these reserves impact the fight that might be all the way over here? So, interesting mission, let's give it a go. We've set up now, folks. Mission is escape, which I don't think I've played in very many times or at all in version 4. This is a deployment zone. Peter's chosen to defend the town, which makes a lot of sense. With his infantry, he could keep my tanks away, which means his reserves will come along here. And my deployment zone is along here. And then the objectives are in this wide band here. So Peter stuck one down there, and I've gone for the opposite corner. And I've gone a bit further back as well, just because I'm worried about all this stuff that's going to come on behind me. So I'm thinking I'll fight the game up that way, but we'll see if that's a good idea. Peter, do you want to tell us what you have got on the table and what's in reserve?
Okay, what I've got in reserve, first of all, is basically all my support units. I've got my Achilles in reserve, my tank platoon in reserve, and my machine gun platoon in reserve. What I've got on the table is 2 platoons of paras. This yellow platoon is defending this objective, and then my green platoon is protecting this objective. I've got my mortars here and my light artillery over here. I've got an observer here, my commander is here, and I've got a platoon of 6-pounders in ambush.
Right, and what I've got is, these guys are all mounted up on half tracks, but basically I've seen this approach before go horribly wrong because everything goes in the one channel, but I'm going to try and use this area to protect my backside. I don't get first turn on this. Peter gets first turn, so I'm kind of pointing both ways at once. We'll see, you probably won't get any reserves first turn, it'll be a big anticlimax, but that's it, folks. We are ready to go. That's my observer, everything else is stuck in there. We're ready to go, so we'll come back at the end of Peter's turn 1.
Okay, that was my first turn. Didn't get any reserves in my roll for reserves. I didn't make any movement. All I did was to try and re-range in with my mortars and my artillery. Managed to range in on some of Frank's half-tracks, managed to kill a couple of half-tracks and a couple of infantry stands, and there's a couple bailed out. There's a Wesp and a mortar bailed out.
All that damage there was as a result of me rolling ones for my saves. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, here's a 2, sorry. 4 ones and a 2. So it's terrible. A couple of 2s for my saves as well. There you go, so that was a pretty brutal start. Don't like this. Defender goes first. So German turn 1. In terms of motivation, everything got back in except one half track. And then the infantry that got shot out of half tracks have remounted here into the 2 surviving half tracks. And everything's dashed off. Down with everything. Some stuff's dashed off down here. The rest has stayed. There's no point in them moving because they're artillery. I've got to keep these guys here, otherwise tanks will roll in and destroy these. I was hoping the reserves would start to arrive last turn and I could maybe bully them 1 platoon at a time. And that's it for me really, just firing a smoke bombardment. Unfortunately my infantry's gutted already. I've lost 2 half tracks and 2 platoons of infantry. And I'm not sure how to play this game getting attacked and attacking at the same time, so we'll just see what happens.
Okay, that turn I decided to pop my ambush and I popped my 6-pounders over here to try and get some shots at the half tracks and the tanks. I then rolled, I got 1 platoon for reserves and I brought on my M10s. And then I tried to do a repeat bombardment over here. Didn't do much damage but managed to bail a Vesp.
And that's with the pack howitzers.
Pack howitzers. With the mortars, I re-ranged in on this half track. And ranged in, but I only managed to hit 1, I think.
No, you never hit anything.
Never hit
you never hit above. You never rolled above a 3.
Oh right. Okay. My M10s missed completely. They didn't hit any of the Hetzers, so they're sitting out in a limb. We'll see whether Frank can return some hits of them. And that was, sorry, my 6-pounders, I managed to, was that hit?
You got 3
hits
out of 4 even 5s.
And destroyed 1 and bailed 1.
Bailed 2.
Bailed 2.
Yeah. I didn't fail any infantry save this time at least.
And then the other 2 aimed at the tank and managed to bail it out.
Yeah, 1 hit. 1 bail. So German turn 2, in terms of motivation, the infantry unpinned, the bailed out Panzer IV got back in. These didn't remount though. So what I've done here is just moved the infantry out of the template where the mortar is, otherwise they're not moving. These guys just edged up a bit. I've moved up the west side with the template because they're just constantly failing the saves. The guys stayed put. The one that was bailed got back in. I needed them for bombardment, smoke bombardment. 1 platoon stayed still, everything else moved. And then in terms of shooting, I had to start with the smoke bombardment, so that'll give me 1 turn of grace against those anti-tank guns that, to be honest, I probably can't do anything about with a 3-up save. These guys fired just some machine gun shots, something to do. Got 3 hits but no kills. Then over here, these guys have got the slow firing rule, remember, so they're on the move, it's going to be harder to hit. The guys there could only shoot on the guys on the hill, so they needed 7s. 1 guy here needed a 5, and 3 needed 6s because of range and slow moving, so they didn't get any hits. These guys here needed 6s for the guys on the hill. They got 1 hit. I got a kill, but just a 1 hit, so nothing really happening, folks. This is going to take a bit of a miracle. So 3 dice, that means the last reserves will definitely be arriving next turn, so we're going to at least have a tank fight.
Okay, that my third turn I managed to get another platoon from reserves, and I got my tanks on. I brought them on here to try and have a go at some of these Hetzers. The only other movement I did was to move the M10s out of the line of sight. I just felt they were a bit too fragile. They'll come back, but at the moment they're hiding. Shooting wise, I rearranged in with my mortars here. I've rearranged with my mortars and my light artillery. A combination of them both, they managed to kill one infantry stand and one armoured car.
Still rolling ones for top armour, folks.
Yes. And over here, my tanks managed to kill a couple of Hetzers from there, but they're now going to be subject to some return fire. And that was my turn 3.
So in German turn 3, these guys didn't unpin and didn't dig in, they're in big trouble. I wanted to get them out of the danger zone, but because there are Germans to the front and to the side, I can't move closer to the enemy, so the only thing I could do is sideways movement. It isn't going to help them. So I just left them, tried to dig in and they failed. I tried to do a blitz with these guys to get shots at Germans and they failed. They have tried to at least got back in. Over here they managed some blitz moves to get into firing position. And the armoured cars, they're just running around. All these tanks here, most of the shooting was at long range. Some of it on the move as well, but they managed to get the Firefly and an ordinary Sherman. And then my artillery both ranged in here and managed to kill one base of infantry. I hit another infantry gun team a couple of times, but no casualties. And that's it, folks. So I've at least killed something, but I really don't see how I'm going to take an objective. I think in this game, because I've had such a terrible start and I'm facing 2 different directions, I've got to try and get a draw.
Okay, that turn I managed to unpin this para platoon and also my 6-pounders. They unpinned, and I managed to get, I got the last of my reserves, which is my machine gun platoon, which come on over here. Movement, I decided to move I thought my tanks were a bit vulnerable there, so I decided they would hide behind this wood. I tried to blitz my M10s, they failed, so they're staying where they are. Nothing else moved. Firing. This M10 I managed to have a shot at the armoured car and managed to destroy one of them. My mortars and my light artillery did a repeat bombardment here. Didn't manage to kill anything. And then this team here fired at the platoon and managed to kill one of his stands. Over here, the 6-pounders went for the half tracks. Did I kill one half track? Was that?
Yeah, you needed 7s because of the got on the ground
yes.
and range, and you got one hit.
One hit and
killed it, and then killed one passenger safe.
Yes, so that was me.
German turn 4. In terms of motivation, the armoured car ran away, the infantry unpinned and passed the last stand. Then I kind of just dashed these guys over here, leaving 2 tanks behind to give Peter something to think about, which really just left my artillery, and 2 of these guns failed to save and I failed my firepower, otherwise I could start to make a bit of progress here. These guys will wipe me out in the blink of an eye in direct fire. I killed the base infantry and that's it. I've only got 2 turns to get within 8 inches of that. So that's just to keep me in the game.
Okay, that turn my 6-pounders failed to unpin. This yellow platoon managed to unpin with the help of the company commander. Movement over here, my tanks are just trying to stay out of trouble and try and get round to help the town. So they dashed and followed me. These just dashed, and my HMGs dashed and followed me. So no other movement. Shooting, I ranged in on the Wesps with my light artillery and managed to kill one.
Another one for top armour save, guys. I can't roll above a 1.
My mortars ranged in the same spot but failed to do anything.
Yeah, they could only hurt the Wesps and never got any hits.
My pinned down 6-pounders tried to get this remaining half track, but they failed, part of the reason because they were pinned.
Both German turn 5. Now folks, we got ourselves in, you can maybe put down in the comments, see what your thoughts are, but I'm thinking about turn 6 as being the critical turn here as for the defender's victory conditions. But the defender goes first. So if I'm not at that objective by the start of turn 6, the defender's won. Which doesn't seem right. It seems as though they've kept the normal victory conditions in and not thought about the fact that the defender goes first in this turn in this game, or they've decided that the attacker needs to just kamikaze straight forward regardless. That might be the case. We're just going to play on as it is. If it is the case that the defender wins at the end of, effectively the end of turn 5, if I'm not within 6 inches, then that's a win for Peter already, but I don't know if it's been FAQ'd, but we'll see. So I'm just rolling forward. I'm trying to blitz and fail miserably, and I did at least keep a couple of guys on the table. So my artillery managed to kill a Piat and a single 6-pounder, and that's it. So I'm basically just rolling up to keep the game going, to see if I can somehow get within 6. But I reckon these guys are going to dish out the punishment. Hopefully I won't come under too much of a crossfire from those tanks. But we'll see. But guys, stick your thoughts, comments, or suggestions down below, folks.
Okay, managed to unpin this yellow paraplatoon, but again failed to unpin the 6-pounders. Over here, dashed my tank platoon over here, but they're not going to do any damage.
Couldn't get in range, basically.
The M10s moved around here. They got 3 shots on the Panzer IVs and managed to kill 1. The light artillery managed to range in here on the second attempt, but failed to do any damage to.
Got a few hits, yeah.
But that big blob of tanks.
Actually made my top armour saves.
The mortars did a repeat bombardment on the Wesps, but didn't do any damage.
I made a save. I rolled 2 6s that time.
My 6-pounders had 3 shots at the Panzer IVs, but failed to hit. And that was the end of my turn 6.
Turn 6, yeah. The mystery turn that we're not really sure about.
Yes. 6 at 5.5.
So German turn 6 or 6B, we're still to decide on that. So in terms of movement, the guys blitzed onto the hill. They tried a blitz and failed, so just moved onto the hill. They stayed put because this was all filled up with tanks. He moved up for motivational support, which meant I had to re-range in the Wesps. I can't remember if it was Wesps or mortars. I think it was maybe the mortars managed to actually kill. That was the mortars. Managed to kill an anti-tank gun, and then I put 3 tanks in for the assault. One got stopped by a Piat, because there's 2 in that platoon, I forgot about that. Stopped by a Piat on the way in, but there was only 2 bases kind of stuck up front, so I killed one, Piat counter-attacked with a Piat and missed, and then I killed the Piat. That ended the assault, so I've pushed on a bit, pushed him back a wee bit, but I'm within 8 inches of the objective. but I'm staring at these guys here who can smash me to bits, and all those infantry can assault me and do all kind of nasty things. So this is Peter's chance to go in and definitely meet the victory conditions.
Okay, with that move I failed to unpin the 6-pounders again. They were fine. Movement, I managed to get, moved up the M10s to get shots at these two Panther 4s which I needed to get rid of. They did get one hit, but Frank managed to
mistaken targeted it.
Jump over to that. These blitzed and then moved, so I get 3 shots in the Hetzers on the hill, but I only managed to bail one.
Yeah, I managed to match and fail, and you failed to firepower on both.
Yes. The light artillery did a repeat bombardment and managed to bail out one of the Hetzers there. Unfortunately, my 6-pounders didn't do any damage to the Panzer 4s.
But they're in counter fire range.
Yeah. So the only option for me was to try and assault them with this para platoon, which I did, and I failed. I lost the assault and I lost 4 stands, including the company commander, and now Frank's sitting on the objective. So
are these.
not good.
And my artillery is probably going to have to lift, and it depends where I move.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to point out, folks, Peter may well already have won this game. We're on move 7B. We're confused. So German turn 7B, though we may be in Never Never Land. In terms of movement, or in terms of motivation, you got back in. The remaining infantry platoon legged it. And that was it for motivations, really. So they stayed put. The tanks moved away from the anti-tank guns, so they could assault but not worry about counter-fire. And then in terms of shooting, well, first of all, the mortars have ranged in over there. It's time for me to try and blow up or bail out top armour 0 stuff. Not that I did, but I ranged in. The West's here. The West got a hit but no kill. Then there was 16 dice, leading 6s managed to get 1, so there's 1 left. Then the assault went in, and company, second in command, para base, 3 mortars got killed. That survivor for that platoon's run away, but I couldn't push him off 4 inches away from the objective, so it still came on. But I'd like to stress, Peter may well have won this game already.
Okay, this surviving guy here, he didn't unpin, but he managed to save his last stand. Likewise, the 6-pounder didn't unpin, but hang around with his last stand roll. And that was that.
I think that's it for motivation, yeah.
Movement, Shermans stayed put. We're trying to shoot the Hetzers. The M10s tried to move to try and get shots on the 2 Panzer 4s over there. Maybe a bit late, but my other infantry platoon have started to move over towards the other objective.
Yeah, you put the heavy machine guns in their place.
So what the Shermans missed the Hetzers, the M10s missed these two Panzer 4s. That would have been nice if I could have got rid of them. The mortars failed to do anything to the Hetzers. I think they hit one, but made a save. And then the artillery managed to range in here to try and hit these 2, but
2 saves.
2 saves. This little guy had to move 1 shot, needing a 5, but he missed. And that's me.
Yeah, but once again we should stress, Peter may well have won this game already. German turn 8, So the Hetzers are moving up. I positioned these guys here to assault the gun. Then, in terms of shooting, there was a bit of shooting at the gun, but it made all its saves. Both my artillery's ranged in here, got a couple of hits, but saves made. Then I went in for the assault against the gun and I killed it. Went over here, pushed him a little bit, then 2 tanks went in for the assault against him. I didn't get him because these guys are not so good in assault. He stayed, swung back, hit me, I saved, but then I broke off because once again they're not very good in assault. So, he's still there. He's still on the objective.
Okay, that turn, this little guy on the objective, he both unpinned and passed his last stand test, so he's hanging on for another shot. I moved my tanks and my M10s up to try and have shots in these tanks, but they all missed.
Didn't 6s and...
Yeah, so they all missed. The green platoon is moving across, but maybe we were too late, and I moved my mortars up just to contest the objective. Artillery ranged in, and this little group of Hetzers, but didn't do any damage. Did I hit any? Or I don't think
hit one.
Hit
two.
One,
two
two,
actually. Because it's your third attempt to range in.
Yes, so...
So, last turn folks, and the Germans finally got rid of defenders within 4 inches. So what happened, first of all, movement. These guys all ganged up on that base. They moved around here to launch an assault into the back of the mortar. They moved up to get shots on M10s. And then in shooting, these guys took loads of machine gun hits, some artillery hits too, 4 bases went. Then the assault went in here first against the mortars, killed one, and then they broke off. Then 3 tanks went in against this guy. They needed 5s because I trained an assault guns, but they got 1 5, and that ended it because there was nothing left within 4 inches, and I would have consolidated to push anything away. So, as I mentioned already, Peter may already have won this in turn 6, but we'll go over to a recap. Right folks, so that might be the first game in history that 2 players have won. Which could be a bit of a lie, and only one player has won. But stick your comments down below folks. You know what, I think if I'd have read the victory conditions properly, I would have put my charge in 1 turn sooner. But it's good to know, and if it is the case with the defender going first, that turn 6 is the key turn, then it's a real advantage for the defender, and as the attacker you cannot take your foot off the gas. So Peter, what are your thoughts on, other than that, on the game and how it played?
It was a good game. It's quite a tricky game for the attacker, with reserves coming on behind you. My intention was just to hold you up long enough for my reserves to come on, but the reserve didn't really do much. They pussyfooted about when they came on. I was hiding and not charging. What I should have done was just got them up here as quickly as possible to try and protect that objective. But in the end, I've got 3 M10s left and 2 Shermans, but they didn't really do much through the game. I think they maybe killed 4 tanks, maybe.
Killed them.
But
Panzer 4 and 2 Hetzers.
So they didn't really do much. I was a wee bit disappointed in them. This side eventually crumbled once my 6-pounders, which did last quite well. Once they'd gone, then there was nothing really to stop the tank assaults.
But you were always just maybe a dice or 2 away from getting rid of these guys that were causing all the problems, because these wouldn't unpin.
Yes.
And so you were on 3 dice, let's say, and then they all missed. These guys had several turns where you could have got a 6, which would have more than likely finished them off, or bailed them out so your infantry could have clobbered them.
Yeah.
But in terms of me, right at the start I was crying. for turn 1. I took an absolute spanking. I could not roll above a 1 or a 2 for most of the game on my my top armour saves. I mean, that was killed for top armour, killed for top armour, top armour, top armour, top armour, bailed out a few times. One of them bailed out. Then bailed out a few times. So I think that is the most effectiveness I've seen from light artillery and mortars in a game that I've played against. So I was very grumpy about it all. And then when it came to it, my luck was in. You didn't unpin these guys. I maybe could have killed them sooner because I failed 2 firepowers on them from artillery, so they maybe would have gone sooner. But they guys were ridiculous how many bases they managed to chew through. The Hetzers ran up in the end and ganged up and clobbered one guy, but they, between them, just chewed through everything. He was really just there for motivational support.
Yes. I should have maybe tried to get rid of him sooner, because that
Yeah, because there's only a 50-50 chance of them staying in otherwise.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. So that could possibly have been a win to me in turn 9, I think, or a win to Peter in turn 6. So stick your comments down below, folks. Hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you liked seeing the Hetzers on the table. It wasn't really the best game for the Hetzers. They're probably better just rolling up and sort of duking it out with somebody rather than try to fight on 2 fronts. But thanks for watching, folks. Thanks to all the subscribers out there. And if you'd like to, please subscribe to help us build the channel and bring more of these kind of videos to the Flames of War community. Cheers, Peter.